In this video, we'll take a look at exporting the design model from EcoSim Building Designer for use in EcoSim Energy Simulator. So this export will take the architectural spaces, the walls with the openings, the windows and door fenestrations, take that into a DGN file that's an analytical model that can be used in Energy Simulator to run our energy simulations. So I'm here in this working model file. We see we have a model here of a gymnasium with some administration, part of the building here of a school. There's references attached to this file. So if I come up here to the ribbon interface and choose references, I can see that I've got this smartsite.dgn file referenced and this gym.dgn file referenced. Over here on the left, I've got my show hierarchy turned on. And if we expand that, we can see that that gym file is actually made up of several nested references. And here in Building Designer, of course, we have our views. We've got two views open in here. This view is in an isometric orientation and a wireframe display style. View 2 over here is in a top orientation and in a transparent display style. Along the views, of course, we've got our different controls. We can zoom out. I can use the wheel on my mouse to zoom out, but you'll notice that that site file is actually a very large civil file out here that shows the area around our project here. And likewise, if I come over to view 2 here, and we can rotate our views around. Of course, up here we have our rotate. If I choose this rotate view first option there, I can say rotate dynamic and rotate my view around. Looks like this view has some clip planes going on in it. So I'm going to go to view attributes here. Turn off that clip back and clip front. So we can see our building in relationship to the topography, etc. Now, take a look at this file. We can zoom in and out of it and rotate it around, etc. There are saved views in here that'll just get it right back to the way it was. So if I come up to the View tab up here in the ribbon interface under the Saved Views group, I can say Apply Saved View, and on the list in the tool settings here for Apply Saved View, we have Gym ISO. So if I'll click in View 1, see how it goes right back to the way it was when I first opened the file. Likewise, we have one called Gym Top. I'll click in View 2 for that one. Now, just to make it a little bit easier to work on, I'm going to the Architectural tab here, and I'll go back to that References dialog box and turn off the display of that Smart Site file. So if I select Smart Site, I'll come to the Display column here and simply turn that off in my views out here for now. So to export this Building Designer design model to energy analysis, we come up to our Analysis tab in the ribbon interface. Over here we have Energy Analysis. If I hover over that, we see the tip says Create Analytical Space Model for Energy Analysis. The Analytical Space Model is really taking information of the spaces in our architectural models out here. So whether that space is, gymnasium or stage or conference room or office, that information is going to be exported out. And then also it will get information about the boundaries of those spaces. So information about the walls and the openings in those walls, the fenestrations like windows and doors, and information about those bounding elements. You'll see when we get it into Energy Simulator how the model is different. It's an analytical model, whereas this is more of a physical model, what we call a design model. So if I come up here and choose Energy Analysis, we get this Analytical Space Model Explorer dialog box, and this allows us to review our model before we actually export it over to Energy Simulator. This process will show us if there's problems with those spaces. Now, I could export it with those problems, but this gives us an opportunity to go ahead and correct those problems before we actually do the export. So we can see here that the Space Model Explorer is showing me the school. Now it's picking up that name from the Building Designer Floor Manager. If I come look at the floor selector down here, we see the building is named School, and then we have a floor one with some reference planes and the roof for the different floors. So that information is coming across into this Space Model Explorer and will be that way in Energy Simulator. But I see this, it tells me here this building contains problem spaces. So if we expand our tree of the building here, I can keep expanding it, and then I start seeing the spaces listed here. It's telling me this floor contains problem spaces. And if I scroll down, I'll see that I've got 2 spaces that tell me the space has missing boundaries. So again, a best practice for the spaces to export to Energy Simulator is for it to be bound correctly by the walls or the ceiling or the roof. And in this model, we actually have plenum spaces, so the plenums are bounding like the tops of those spaces. So you can see here, I'll move this over. You can see that we've got the administration plenum here has missing boundaries, and this locker room 1, 2, 3 has missing boundaries. Now in this particular case, it's really the same issue that's affecting both of those spaces, because the plenum administration space is above all of this lower level spaces down here. So it's really acting as a top boundary for all of these spaces down here. And so if I go to correct this locker room 1, 2, 3 error, it will fix the other one. We can come over here and right click and say show missing boundaries. So you notice the options here: show all boundaries, show missing boundaries, and activate model. So right now I'll choose show missing boundaries, and I can see something highlighting in my model out here. Now in this Analytical Space Model Explorer along the top up here, you can see where we have some options up here. I can say highlight, and it's going to highlight whatever I have selected. So right now it's highlighting the locker room 1, 2, 3 space, and I can see that magenta colored highlight out there, and I can see it in this transparent view over here too. And then we can also choose zoom, so we'll actually zoom into that area. I'm going to turn the zoom back off for right now. Now to fix that error, remember how we saw this is made up of nested references? We can actually right click here and say activate model. So when we say activate model, that means to allow me to edit that reference that's attached to this working model.dgn file. Without activating it, we can't really edit the components in that model without actually opening that file where that wall that we're looking at actually exists. Now up here we also have this isolate button. You notice there's this little drop down arrow, and we can say isolate with members or isolate without members. If I say isolate with members, you see how that shows me the bounding elements of that space. So those are the members of that space. Then also up here we have select. So I've activated the model. I've utilized this highlight and isolate tool up here, kind of help me better see. Notice that it's set to view 1, so those toggles are affecting view 1 over here. If I say select, then actually I need to drill down into the wall, which I'm looking for this wall right here, the CMU 8-inch non-rated wall right there. So in order to do that right now, it's selecting the space because that's what I have highlighted in the list. So I'll turn that select back off. But I'll go ahead and drill down into the space here. And you can see, again, because I have the isolate turned on up here, as I select these different components, whether it's the slab, that's the bottom of boundary of that space, whether it's a wall over here, or the plenum space up above, I'm going to go ahead and turn that isolate off for right now. And simply go through here and select these walls. I'm going to toggle this show missing boundaries off and on again. So, there's that wall. And If I pick this one, I can see, well, that's the wall that has the doors that are the entryway into the locker rooms. If I choose this one, aha, there is the wall that has the problem, and it has those missing boundaries. So I can come over here, select it, and now I can edit it. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more using the wheel on my mouse here. You can see where we get these handles that we can use to modify the length, the height, and the width, the bottom of this wall. And if I'm in the element selection tool, I can tell by the way my cursor is and by the tool settings here. If I just hover over that top handle, this is a form, a linear form, this wall. And so the top of it, it considers that to be the roof of the form. Don't get confused that this is the roof of the building. This is just the top or roof of the wall. And I can simply left click as I hover over that handle. And then you can see how if I move my cursor, it'll allow me to either make the height smaller or make the height taller. And I know that this wall over here is the height I want it to be, so I can just line it up by accu-snapping to the top of this wall. So I'll just left click to accept that, and then I can left click out in space here to basically finish that operation. So the two errors that I have over here about the missing boundaries, one has to do with that locker room. So that's going to fix the one for the locker room, but then also it's going to fix this one because that's the plenum space above, taking care of two errors just with that one modification. Now, it's still showing me that it has missing boundaries here, but I can come up here and hit refresh, and it'll reanalyze the spaces in my project. And now I can see the error description field is blank over here. So if I drill back down through those spaces, you can see that there's no other errors. So typically you would try to take care of any of those errors before you export it for use in Energy Simulator. So we'll go ahead now and click the export button. It will automatically save it to an Energy Sim folder in our work set. And I'll go ahead and give it a different name here. I'll just call it, keep the underbar working model. Maybe I'll just put AES for EcoSim Energy Simulator on there. But it does go to a different location. So I'll hit save right there. You'll see this message that says Harvest Compute, Translate, Facet, and Persist. And then it will open EcoSim Energy Simulator with the analytical file open. Now, EcoSim Energy Simulator has a very similar interface to EcoSim Building Designer. You'll notice the ribbon interface along the top up here, but we've got different tabs in here. I'm just going to close out of this settings and validation dialog box that opened up for me. And I'm going to say no, not to save those changes for right now. That'll be done in another video. I can see I've got a couple of views here. We have the ribbon interface, but again, we have different tabs. So the Home tab, Roofs, Data Managers, Calculations, and View are our different tabs in here. But notice the views, we've got those same view controls that we saw over in Building Designer, where we can rotate our view. We can apply different display styles to our view. Again, just like in EcoSim Building Designer. I'm going to hit a view previous there just to get that back to the way it was. And I see I've got two different views open, but if you look closely at the model here, you'll notice that, the walls and the windows, they are an analytical component. So I don't see all the details of the windows, like the window sill and the glazing in the windows. I don't see the door leaf or the door frame. I don't see the thickness for the walls. In fact, I can see over here where it really just left a gap where that wall is. But that's okay. This is an analytical model. And that's the difference between this analytical model and the design model that we work on in Building Designer. Building Designer is utilized to design the building, coordinate between all the building disciplines, generate your construction document drawings from. Energy Simulator is used to run energy simulations on our building. So this is an analytical model. Building Designer is the design model over there. If we take a closer look at the Energy Simulator interface, I've moved one thing. This notification windows, you'll see, opens up By default, it opens up docked like this, all the way across the bottom like that. Over on the left, we have this project tree. So those are a couple of different things in Energy Simulator that we don't see in Building Designer. I like to, this is just my personal preference, but take this notifications and use this docking glyph so that it docks just beneath my two views right here. And then I have the whole left side of the interface here for my project tree. We've exported our design model to an analytical space model for use in Energy Simulator.